My wife and her best friend accused me of having an affair, then got angry when I didn't have one, which led to her being unalive. God, I hate her friend so much. I 31M and my wife 29F had a baby last December. It was a traumatic birth, and my wife developed postpartum depression. While she was originally going to go back to work after the birth, she's been struggling enough that we decided to wait until our daughter was a year old and reassess. She has been going to therapy weekly. With my wife home full-time, I've had to work longer hours. This is something we discussed prior to making this decision, and she knew this from the start. A few weeks ago, my boss approached me about a project that would require a lot of overtime in a short amount of time. It would both be great financially and for my career. I talked to my wife about it, and she agreed that I should say yes to my boss. For the 4 weeks I'd be working on this, my Mill and her best friend, Jessie 29F, name changed, would come help out with some of the duties that I typically do. Jessie is a Psalm with a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old. She began coming over during the day and would watch the kids with my wife. 3 weeks into the project, it became clear that we'd need a few more weeks to get it together. I went home that night and talked to my wife about it. She said she was okay with it, but got very cold in the days after. It wasn't unusual behavior over the past few months, so I didn't think much about it and tried not to take it personally. During the last week of the project, I got home one night and saw that Jessie was still at the house. I didn't think much about it, said hi to her and my wife, and then went to check on our daughter. Before I could get to her room, I heard Jessie say something along the lines of, "He doesn't even stop to greet you. Definitely a sign." I turned around and asked what it was a sign of. Immediately, my wife started crying, and Jessie started accusing me of having an affair. She told me that I must hate my wife because she has PPD, and I am not attracted to her because she gained weight from the pregnancy. Neither of these things is true. I'm trying my best to help my wife through her PPD while supporting our family. And I think she looks great how she is right now. She just hasn't wanted to have sex, and I haven't pushed. Jessie then demanded to see my phone. I told her no. She told me that's a sign that I'm guilty. I told my wife that I would let her see my phone if she wanted to. She nodded, and something inside me broke. I guess it was the thought that she actually believed I was having an affair that really got to me, and that she didn't trust me after everything we've been through. Well, she looked through the phone, and there was no evidence. Jessie started saying that I deleted the evidence. She started screaming and woke up our daughter, so I told her to get out of the house. Eventually, she left, and I went to calm our daughter since my wife was still on the couch crying. When my daughter was asleep again, I sat down with my wife and tried to talk to her about what'd been happening. She told me that she's been worried ever since I started working all the overtime. I told her that we'd talked about how good of an opportunity it was, and she agreed to let me take on this project. She said it was very suspicious to increase the length of the project. I told her that sometimes that happens. She wanted more evidence, so I showed her messages and emails with timestamps from work and pay stubs showing the OT. She said she believed me and was sorry for doubting me. It was just that Jessie had been telling her that these were all signs that I was cheating. I asked her why she believed Jessie more than me, and why she didn't come to me with her concerns. She didn't have a real answer. It's been a couple weeks, and the project is over. I actually scaled back, and am trying to work a little less than I was before the project, so I can spend more time with my wife and daughter. But I feel so burned out trying to do everything and becoming resentful, because, in the back of my mind, I know that my wife doesn't trust me. I ask myself, what happens the next time I have a project? Or do I have to run errands one day? Or if I have a business trip? Am I going to come back every time there are accusations that I'm cheating? I've tried bringing it up a couple times, but my wife tells me it's not the time and that she's tired or sad. I try to be mindful of her feelings, but I wonder if that means that I can never have any of my own. I'm not sure what to do here. Any advice for how I can move forward? Update. Thank you to everyone for all of the advice and support in my previous post. I think a lot of you pointed out what should have been obvious, that I need to get a therapist and start looking after my own mental health. A couple people asked for an update, so I'm giving one, but it's not happy. That night, I approached my wife and told her that I was going to find a therapist. I didn't connect it to her accusations or anything. I just said that I was having a tough time and needed therapy. She shrugged and told me to do whatever. The next day, I got home from work, and our room and my home office were ripped apart. Things everywhere. Important papers are scattered. I don't see her, but our daughter's in her room crying. My wife left her alone. Her cell phone's off. I call my in-laws and a few friends, but no one's seen her. I'm starting to get worried, and I call my mom to see if she can babysit while I go out and look for her. Before my mom can get home, My wife gets back. Jesse's driving. Jessie doesn't come in. She hasn't been back in the house since I kicked her out because she was offended by my behavior. But my wife does. She's clearly upset and has been crying. I asked what happened. I thought at first the house might have been robbed. She starts screaming at me, saying that I'm being unfaithful and that the therapy is a front so I can meet my mistress. I tried to calm her down and tell her that's not true, but she came at me and hit me. My nose is broken. She kind of realized what she did and sat down on the couch and went comatose, just staring at the wall. I went into my daughter's room and locked the door. I called my mom to tell her what happened. She was already on her way, and my mill to ask her to come over and take care of my wife. I packed a bag for my daughter, and when my mom got there, we left. My wife didn't even look up. We dropped my daughter off with my dad, and then went to urgent care for my nose. I got blood all over my mom's new Subaru. My daughter and I are staying with my parents for a while, and my wife's staying with hers. I am looking into getting a restraining order against Jessie. My wife and I are separating. I love her, but I won't live with someone who hurts me and who could potentially hurt our daughter. I am not going forward with a divorce yet, in the hopes that my wife will get the treatment she needs, and we can work things out. My in-laws told me that they're looking at inpatient treatment at a local hospital. But I also have everything well documented in case of an eventual custody battle. My heart's broken because I know this isn't my wife. This is a sickness in her mind. But I need to keep myself and our daughter safe and give her the space to recover. I'm hoping that this is the right decision. Thanks again, everyone. Edit. Thank you all for your feedback. I've talked to my parents after reading your comments and came to the conclusion that for my daughter's protection, I need to file a police report. I am headed to the station now. Update. Do I let the woman I blame for my wife's unalive speak at her funeral? There's more context for this situation in my post history. My wife passed away early Monday morning. Convinced by her friend Jessie that I was having an affair that I did not have, she had a mental break, which resulted in my taking our infant daughter and staying with my parents for a while. She was with her parents, who planned on taking her to the hospital for inpatient treatment on Monday. On Sunday night, she came to my parents' house and demanded I give her our daughter. Because she had left her alone for several hours, the last time she was responsible for her, and had gotten physical with me, I refused. I offered to let her come in and spend time with her while my parents and I were present. But she didn't want to come in and wanted to take our daughter with her. She was upset but left eventually. A few hours later, she drove her parents' car into a tree and passed away. My friend Jessie came to see my daughter and me yesterday. After some tears, she told me that she was planning to speak at my wife's funeral. She had already cleared it with my in-laws, but was letting me know as a courtesy. I told her she would not be speaking at the funeral. We fought, and she left after telling me that I was an arsey hole and not the only person who loved my wife. I talked to my in-laws, who are adamant that Jessie be allowed to speak. She and my wife have known each other since they were kids, and my in-laws are close to her. We're all very fragile right now, and I fear that pushing this further would hurt my relationship with my in-laws, which I don't want. Still, the thought of seeing Jessie up there at my wife's funeral makes me feel sick. I don't think I can stand to listen to her, knowing that she took joy in my wife's deteriorating mental health and picked up my wife, leaving my daughter home alone. That being said, I don't trust myself to make the best decisions right now. My mind's clouded by grief, guilt, and fear. My parents are split on what to do, and I don't have the energy to reach out to my friends. So I'm coming here again to ask for your advice. Thank you. TLDR. A woman fed lies to my wife, suffering from postpartum depression, which led to a mental breakdown and her passing. She now wants to speak at my wife's funeral. Denying her would start trouble, which I'm not sure would be worth it. Second story. OP's husband tries to use her lack of citizenship to trap her in an abusive marriage. I need some advice. I'm desperate. My husband and I have been married for over a year, and my application for PR is in process. He hit me in the face this morning while I was breastfeeding our 2-month-old. I politely asked him for my painkillers for my C-section pain. I forgot that he asked me to make coffee before he left for work since the baby was already crying, so it slipped my mind. This is not the first time he has been abused. The abuse started after a week of marriage physically, emotionally, mentally, sexually, and financially. He turned out to be a monster, and the man I fell in love with was gone. Now he has threatened to take away our baby and deport me if I leave and report him. I came here 3 years ago as an international student from the Philippines and just started working as a full-time RN before giving birth. Now that I'm on leave, he expects me to do everything in the house, and he hasn't even taken care of our baby since we left the hospital. He said, and I quote, "This is how households work in Canada. The wife works in the house with the children while us husbands bring the money. I didn't say anything after that. He works 10 hours a day, 5 days a week in construction. Sometimes I don't blame him for his anger issues because I know how physically demanding his job is, especially in this weather. I have no immediate family here, and I have no financial future back home. What options do I have? I cannot leave our baby with him. It will be the death of me to be separated from my child. Relevant comments. From a deleted user. They are very unlikely to separate you from your child if the child was born here. Report it to the police ASAP. OP replied. I did try. But as soon as he knew I was going to call the cops on him, he said he would cancel my PR permanent residency application. He is sponsoring me, Picnic Expert said. Go to a woman's shelter with your baby. Take whatever money you can get your hands on and go while he is at work. They will protect you and your baby from him and help you with your immigration and custody stuff. If you drop the city here, we can find the nearest or best one for you. Reporting it to the police is not enough. You need to leave now. There were conflicting opinions on whether or not the husband could cancel her application for permanent residency, but everyone agreed that OP had options. He is lying. He cannot cancel your PR application. He is using scare tactics to control you and keep you in line. Knowing that you do not know the laws, what he is doing is blackmail. You need to report him to the police immediately and tell them everything. You should also get a lawyer or talk to one and tell them everything. They can help you as well. I would also take your baby and go to a women's shelter. I would also tell the women's shelter what is going on. They can help you. Do not let him get away with this. Report him to the police immediately. Not tomorrow or the next day, but right now, as soon as you see this. A different poster said. There's a lot of misinformation in this thread. A sponsor can absolutely withdraw their participation in a sponsorship application, as long as the application is still in process. No sponsor means no application. Also, if your husband is convicted of an offense against a relative that caused bodily harm, he would become unable to sponsor you or anyone else, so your application will not move forward. That doesn't mean he can have you deported. You do have options. Get help from a domestic violence hotline or organization, as others have suggested. Call IRC. They have options for you. No, you most likely won't be able to become a PR through sponsorship, but you could through a humanitarian and compassionate PR application. In the meantime, you may get the opportunity to work while you wait for the outcome of that application. The IRC has the information. Someone also posted the IRC link for people in abusive situations, and that's exactly what you need. I wish you all the best. You and your child deserve so much better. OP edited her post to say the following. Edit. Thank you everyone. I appreciate all your advice. He is at work, and I'm currently in a shelter, and some friends helped me with my stuff and my babies. The thing is, my husband has both our OHIP cards temp paper for babies. Edit 2. We are both 29 years old, and he is Caucasian, born and raised here in the province. Edit 3. The police and immigration are now involved. Edit 4. Different women heal differently. Since I have been active with little to no rest after the baby was born plus the physical and sexual loss, I am still in pain. And yes, I will be talking to my provider as soon as I get my OHIP from my ex-husband. Thank you all. Update. Hi all. I just want to express my sincere gratitude to everyone on this sub for all their advice and help. I'm currently at the airport with my brothers and dad. My mother, who decided to wait for me back home since she couldn't stand seeing my bruised face and body and had to undergo a minor surgery, waiting for our flight. They are devastated and hurt, especially my father. I was able to secure my child's passport urgently without my ex-husband's consent. Police and immigration reports were sufficient. I also reported my situation to my employer and Service Canada, saying that I would be out of the country during my leave and would be back next year. Lastly, I have also informed CRA and found out that he was the recipient of the child benefit, so the agent changed it, as well as our status. I'm so happy I'm separated from the Osser. His family also reached out to me and offered a place to stay in their house, since they didn't know the Oz that was going on, and they didn't want us to leave the country. Lol. I cut them all out of my life. The trauma and stress I have endured these past months have been so unbearable that I don't want anything to do with them. My ex-husband is currently in jail. Again, from the bottom of my heart. Thank you all.